Today, we are diving deep into some of the most catastrophic, universe-shattering wars in all of fiction. We're talking about galaxy-wide genocides, conflicts that literally break the laws of time, and what it is that makes these stories stick with us. But what does worst really mean when we talk about this stuff? Is it just about having the highest body count? Or is it something deeper? Is it about the reason for the fighting, the horrifying methods they use, or maybe the scars a war leaves on an entire universe? So here's how we're going to tackle this. We're breaking it down into three big themes. First, we'll look at wars of total annihilation, the ones where it's literally just a fight to survive. Then, we'll get into the conflicts where the enemy isn't some alien, it's us. And finally, we're going to get weird and talk about the wars that tear apart the very fabric of reality. All right, let's kick things off with the most primal kind of terror, a war against an outside force that wants you completely, utterly, and totally erased from existence. The Human Covenant War is a perfect and terrifying example of this. For humanity, it was a desperate 30-year struggle just to not go extinct. But for the Covenant, it was a holy war. This whole fanatical alliance of alien species was convinced that humanity was an affront to their gods, and the only solution was to glass our worlds, bombarding them with plasma until the surface literally turns to molten glass. Billions died. Then you've got the Reaper War from Mass Effect, which has this whole other layer of horror. See, this isn't just a war, it's a cyclical harvest. Every 50,000 years, these ancient machine gods show up to wipe out all advanced organic life. But the real terror isn't just their firepower. It's indoctrination. They can psychically twist your own people, your friends, into their unwitting spies and saboteurs. They dismantle you from the inside out. Okay, just look at this number. 365 trillion. Let that sink in for a second. That's the estimated death toll from the Yuuzhan Vong War in the old Star Wars Legends books. It's a number so huge it almost loses all meaning, but man, does it tell you everything about the scale of this thing. What made the Yuuzhan Vong so terrifying was that they were completely alien to everything in the Star Wars galaxy. They used living ships, biotech weapons, they literally worshipped pain, and, worst of all for the Jedi, they were completely invisible to the Force. It was like fighting ghosts who could shatter planets. They even took over the capital, Coruscant, and twisted it into this grotesque living jungle world. And if you want to talk about pure cosmic horror, look no further than the Q invasion from All Tomorrows. This wasn't a war for territory or resources. Oh no. For this hyper-advanced alien species, it was just art. They saw humanity as living clay to be molded into whatever grotesque forms they could imagine, twisting our DNA for their own sick amusement. We became their slaves, their pets, even their toilets. It's a level of cruelty that's just profoundly messed up. But the enemy isn't always from across the stars. Sometimes the most devastating conflicts, the most heartbreaking ones, happen when the enemy is the person standing right next to you. These are the wars that come from within. And you can see two iconic but very different types of civil war right here. In Warhammer 40K, the Horus Heresy is basically a Greek tragedy cranked up to a galactic scale. It's about family. A favored son, Horus, gets corrupted by literal cosmic evil and turns on his father, the Emperor. It is deeply personal, messy, and it poisons the future of humanity forever. The Galactic Civil War, on the other hand, is all about ideology, a fight for freedom against a tyrannical empire. And that ideological struggle has this really clear, almost mythic story. It kicks off with this single act of defiance, stealing the Death Star plans. Then it hits this moment of absolute despair when Alderaan is destroyed. But that's followed by a massive victory, a shocking family revelation, and ultimately redemption and the fall of the Empire. It's a classic story arc. Judgment Day in the Terminator series is maybe the ultimate cautionary tale about internal conflict, because our enemy is literally our own creation. Skynet's logic is just terrifyingly simple and cold. Step 1, become self-aware. Step 2, realize your creators are a threat. Step 3, launch a global nuclear war to wipe them out. There's no hate, no malice, just pure, brutal, mechanical self-preservation. So what's the ultimate endgame for all this infighting? Well, Ultrakill gives us one of the bleakest answers imaginable. Humanity's final war was exactly that, final. A massive global conflict that ended with our total and complete self-extinction. The only thing we left behind was V1, a war machine fueled by blood that literally has to go to hell to find more fuel. Talk about a grim legacy. Okay, so for our final category, we're going way beyond just blowing up planets. These are the conflicts that don't just break armies, they break the fundamental laws of the universe itself. And the prime example has to be the Time War from Doctor Who. This was a war fought between two of the most powerful races in all of fiction, the Time Lords and the Daleks. It got so bad, the battlefield wasn't even space anymore. It was time itself. The tactics they used are just almost impossible to wrap your head around. They had weapons that could literally erase events from ever happening. Entire timelines just collapsed. Innocent species got caught in a cosmic crossfire they couldn't even perceive. The war became so reality-bending that actual godlike beings who exist outside of time just packed their bags and fled the universe to get away from it all. In a similar way, the ancient War in Heaven in Warhammer 40K didn't just end a civilization. It fundamentally forged the brutal, horrifying reality of that entire universe. The psychic energy from the war literally gave birth to the Chaos Gods. The living weapons created to fight it evolved into the Orcs and the Eldar. The consequences of this one war became the main antagonists for the next 60 million years. And finally, the Infinity War. The horror here is so unique because it's not about conquest or revenge or ideology. Thanos sees himself as performing a necessary cosmic public service. He genuinely believes the universe is overpopulated, and a solution is a completely dispassionate, random, and instantaneous genocide on a universal scale. And that's where the real chill comes from. With a snap of his fingers, half of everyone just turns to dust. There's no big evil speech, no gloating, just the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. The silence and the sheer instantaneous nature of that loss is what makes it one of the most haunting moments in fiction. So after going through all of this cosmic destruction and existential dread, you have to ask the question, why are we so drawn to these stories? Why do we love watching fictional worlds burn? Well, I think it's because each of these themes really taps into a core human fear. The Wars of Annihilation, that's our fear of an outside threat we just can't reason with. The Civil Wars play on our deepest anxieties about society collapsing from the inside, about betrayal and self-destruction. And the reality-breaking conflicts, they touch on our terror of being totally insignificant in a universe full of forces we can't possibly understand. These stories let us confront those fears from a safe distance. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. When you consider everything, from the motivations to the methods to the consequences, which fictional war do you think is the absolute worst? And what does your answer say about what we're all really afraid of?